Let's be xenophobic. It's really in this year. Let's find a nasty, slimy, ugly alien to fear. There's no more cutesy stories about E.T. phoning home. Let's learn to love our neighbors like the Christians learned in Rome. We know we ought to hate them. They're different, you see. We've seen they're mean and ugly on movies and TV. The folks that ought to know have told us how it's got to be. The gospel truth is found in scenes from Alien and V. Let's wipe out any life form that seems to be a threat. We'll serve them up a genocide they never will forget. 'Cause if we miss a couple, they'll breed a couple more. And soon we'll all be hating twice as many as before.
One and all, welcome. I am Nick Muniz. This is Nick's Nonfiction. Today on the show, we have got Jonathan Haidt's The Righteous Mind. In this book, Haidt shows how moral judgments arise, not from reason, but from gut feelings. He shows why liberals, conservatives, and libertarians have such different intuitions about right and wrong. Good classic American political episode.
Can we get much higher?
What do libertarians call Tic Tacs? Ticks. Because they hate taxes.
Oh my God!
His research focuses on morality, its emotional foundations, and cultural variations. What did the ethics professor say to the art major? You have to draw the line somewhere. What do you call the head of the Washington, D.C. Financial Ethics Board? The capital principle. About the author, Jonathan Haidt. Jonathan Haidt is a professor of ethical leadership at New York University of Stern School, the height of liberal education. Stern School? We know some of the alumni there. My boy Jeffrey. Teaching ethics at a business school? That's like teaching nutrition at McDonald's. My professor tells me I'm failing my ethics class, so I slid him $20 across the table. Haidt also wrote The Coddling of the American Mind, The Anxious Generation. He's on podcasts, he's talking about how smartphones affect mental health. Smartphones, so smart, they make you dumb. Chapter 1, The Righteous Mind by Jonathan Haidt. Can we all just get along? Can't we all get along? That appeal was made famous May 1st, 1992 by Rodney King, a black man who had been beaten nearly to death by 4 Los Angeles police officers a year earlier. The entire nation had seen a videotape of the beating, so when the jury failed to convict the officers, the acquittal triggered widespread outrage. You triggered liberals! Let the cops beat a man to death! Back to blue! 53 people were killed and more than 7,000 buildings were torched in the riots. Can we all just get along, man? No, Rodney. I was at the LA riots for George Floyd. We don't want to get along. We want to riot. Most Americans nowadays are asking King's question not about race relations, but about political relations and the collapse of cooperation across party lines. There's no more negotiating. Don't stoop, okay? Tell everybody at the Thanksgiving table that you're a furry. They need to know. Cooperation across party lines? Let's get more political. By the end of the tour, I hope to have given you a new way to think about 2 of the most important, vexing, and divisive topics in human life, politics and religion. Etiquette's book will tell us not to discuss these topics in polite company, but I say, go ahead. Politics and religion are both expressions of our underlying moral psychology. That's what I'm saying, Jonathan. We gotta expose people's underlying moral psychology without their consent. It used to be custom not to talk about politics or religion. I say screw it. Let's talk about politics even more. I'm going to tell you a brief story. This is his whole book. He's going to give you scenarios, and you got to decide whether it's morally just or not. Scenario 1. A family's dog was killed by a car in front of their house. They had heard that dog meat was delicious, so they cut up the dog's body and cooked it. They ate it for dinner, and nobody saw them do this. Okay, you're probably feeling some emotions right now. We'll come back to his moral dilemma. Gonna tell a short story because this happened in my neighborhood growing up. Our neighbors, they had a Cocker Spaniel named Chestnut. He was an outside dog one winter's eve. He got creamed by an ice skating truck. go outside, chestnut is flat. That entire Christmas, my family would sing chestnuts roasting on an open... Chestnut got run over by a reindeer. Was that morally okay of us? Is it morally okay for the other family to eat chestnut? Back to Jonathan's moral scenario. A family consumes their pet without anybody knowing. Is this wrong? What's the line between pet and food? Europeans, they ride their horse to the pub and then fry it up for dinner. Horses, food. Customs are flexible. That's what we're getting at today. What happens when an Asian family moves next door? The Chan family, this happened in my neighborhood. They kept letting their dog loose onto the street. Got hit by a car, they would eat it for dinner. They claimed it was an accident, but they're on their 4th dock-hound this week. Does it cross the line if you let them wander the street on purpose? Put a couple cats on short leashes tied to a fire hydrant? Is it wrong to eat a pet if no one's looking? I'm seeing this online. These e-girls, they're buying micro pigs. I want to buy Belle Delphine's micro pig, cook it on a live stream, and feed her the bacon. Ethics, morals. I used to be so poor, I would buy guinea pigs from PetSmart to eat. Is it acceptable ethically because it's all I could afford? Jonathan says, if you are like most of the well-educated people in my studies, like a liberal, you felt an initial flash of disgust, but you hesitated before saying the family had done anything morally wrong. They're Asian immigrants, after all. You have to respect their customs. After all, the dog was deadly, all right? He was dead, all right? He didn't hurt. He's already dead. It's fresh meat right there. You're not going to touch that carcass? The Chan family wants it. Did you know that in other cultures it is custom to consume the corpse of the elders? I think there should be a third option. Bury, cremate, rack of ribs. Yo, that ham looking thick. That's not a ham, that's grandma's ass. You're at with the death guy, you're checking off mausoleum at the cemetery. Or option B, all you can eat feast on grandma's remains. Is it ethical? Okay. Here's a more challenging story. A man goes to the supermarket once a week, buys a chicken, but before cooking the chicken, he has sexual intercourse with it. Sin City was a ravia. Come outside that chicken breast looking extra ripe and juicy. He has sexual intercourse with his chicken, then he cooks it, then he eats it. Man's making love to his own cock and eating. This is a wild book. Helicopter, helicopter. This is standard American politics, all right? Once again, no harm, no foul. Nobody else knows. And just like eating the dog, it involves a kind of recycling. You're a liberal. You like to recycle, huh? Eat your pets, come in your chickens. The liberals, they figured it out, bro. You have sex with your chickens. Jonathan Haidt. If you're an educated and politically aware liberal Westerner, you'll probably give another nuanced answer. One that acknowledges the man's right to do whatever he wants, as long as he doesn't hurt anyone else. That's what I'm saying. He's killing two birds with one stone. He's killed 2 birds with one bone. If you're an educated, politically liberal Western, you would know this. I mean, what do they say out there in the country? You goddamn any sinner liberals, you won't let me fuck my chicken before I eat it. Thanks, Obama. Kill 3 birds with one stone. Instead of killing it, kill the chicken by having sex with it. Do it for PETA. Understanding the simple fact that morality differs around the world and even within societies is the first step toward understanding your righteous mind. You know, people ask me, who radicalized you? The non-chicken fucking masses. Chapter 2. Philos. I studied philosophy in college, hoping to figure out the meaning of life. After watching too many Woody Allen movies, I had mistaken the impression that philosophy would be some sort of help. It's kind of funny. But he already showed his hand. Woody Allen, you see where this chapter's going. The etymology of Philos, man, to love. Philos, Sophie, the love of wisdom. Woody Allen and Socrates, two prolific artists, had Philos for young boys. Mark Twain once said, "To a man with a hammer, everything looks like a nail." This is Haidt taking the long road to say that rationalism can lead to rationalizing anything. Well, I'm such a smart philosopher, it is okay to imprint myself on a child. Well, I paid $60,000 for an Ivy League college, so rationally, I'm better. We went big brain. Chapter 1, what's worse, killing your pet and eating it? Can logic go too far? Kohlberg's most influential finding was the most morally advanced kids were those who had frequent opportunities for role-taking, putting themselves into other person's shoes and looking at a problem from their perspective. Did Socrates ever stop his massive philandering to think, maybe from the kid's perspective, they don't want to suck my smelly foreskin? Logic is very helpful. You got to see it from other people's perspective. Socrates, he's such a good teacher. He knew. You got to pay $60,000 a year to learn that toothbrushes are sexist. It's rational. These are real things that happen at universities. It's rational. Righty Heidi. He's saying the righteous, rational lefty, they need to leave the conservatives alone in the country. This is my flyover state. Let me have sex with my chicken. Liberals, they're on team sodomy until it comes to having sex with chickens. You know what I'm saying? The righty, righteous mind. Maybe they need to leave alone the academic liberals because they're so smart, they get to have sex with kids. Let the drag queens read your kids some propaganda. Hey, gotta let them do it. After the Met Gala, you go to Peter Nygaard's Island. Practice philos for logic, for science. Trill discovered that children as young as 5 usually say that the boy was wrong to break the rule, but it would be okay if a teacher gave him permission to break a rule. This is another example of societal conventions. Remember this one from school? You weren't allowed to wear your hoodie. And then you go to the town over. They're allowed to wear their hoodie, and they have higher test scores. The teacher would freak out. I can't teach. He has a hoodie on. No! They'd have a goddamn panic attack if a student had a hoodie on. There are other schools of fish in the sea. In other words, young children don't treat all the rules the same. As Piaget and Kohlberg had exposed, kids can't talk with like moral philosophers, but they are busy sorting out social information their own sophisticated way. Kids, better moral philosophers than the Greeks. Practicing all their philos out in Greek. Enough! The kids know better. You ever felt the power of pushing a kid down on the playground? You feel like a big man. But then you gotta look him in the eye when somebody else helps him up. Billionaires, they could rationalize their spending money on private sex islands because they don't have to look the kids in the eyes. They don't have to look the third world in the eye. Speaking of looking the third world in the eye, did you see this Mr. Beast? He donated surgery to 1,000 blind kids. Well, looking the third world in the eye. This is a real story. The doctors, they sued Mr. Beast because he didn't wind up paying them. So rationally, what do these doctors have to do? They have to get paid. So they have to take the 1,000 African blind kids and they have to re-blind them. Mr. Beast! Checks didn't clear. Rationally, kids, we got to take your eyes back. Mr. Beast! Chapter 3. The Great Debate. Schroeder offered a simple idea to explain why the self differs so much across cultures. All societies must resolve a small set of questions about how to order society, the most important being how to balance the needs of individuals and groups. Needs of the individual, needs of the group. Philosophy. The societal answer dominated most of the ancient world, but the individualistic answer became a powerful rival during the Enlightenment. People are starting to talk about egalitarianism, getting a little socialist. It sounded pretty good when he had our own farms. You know, okay, I'll chip in a couple grains of rice. You chip in some chickens. Don't have sex with them. We all have our own farms. We all chip in. Egalitarianism is not really hitting the same now that we all live in apartments and we work at the Amazon factory together.
Holy crap!
The walls are paper thin. The egalitarian, it doesn't have the same ring to it. Together alone, that was cool when you had your own farm. Together alone when you work in a cubicle, that's a scene from an Orwell novel.
Sin City was a savior.
Back to the Enlightenment. John Locke, some other hippie thinkers, they were doing morality quizzes on Native Americans. They asked some of the natives, while walking, a man sees a dog asleep on the road. He walks up to the dog and kicks it. A father says to his son, "If you do well on the exam, I will buy you a pen." The son did well on the exam, but the father did not give him anything. In the kicking the dog example, they were like, no, that's wrong. You got to let a sleeping dog lie. And then in the pen example, they said, no, you made a promise. You have to keep the promise. So we're seeing eye to eye with the natives. Some more advanced questions. A young married woman went alone to see a play without informing her husband. When she returned home to her husband, he said, "If you do it again, I will beat you black and blue." She did it again, and he beat her black and blue. "You, sir." The natives said, "You are not allowed to beat your wife." A man had a married son and a married daughter. After his death, his son claimed most of the property. His daughter got little. The natives said this is not right. You are supposed to split the difference. The patriots say the boys are the heirs. You're allowed to beat your wife, the boy gets everything. So we're not starting to see eye as much with John Locke. In a family, a 25-year-old son addresses his father by his first name. Patriots, this is unacceptable. You shall call me Neville Dunsworth the 8th, as I called my father Neville Dunsworth the 9th. The natives, they said, once you turn 25, you go from Chief Cloud Bull, King of Wind, to Pops. You actually lose a little bit of status when you get too old. Goddamn natives. A widow in your community eats fish 2 or 3 times a week. And the native straight up said, "What's a widow? Her wife died? You just join another marriage." So you see why we couldn't cohabitate with the natives? They're talking about free love. They're talking about treating girls equally. Get the hell out of here. This one was a little weird. After defecation, a woman does not change her clothes before cooking. The natives said this was normal. You guys know, I'm a little bit autistic for the natives, but this one crosses the line, all right? Res bros, you got some stanky-ass hoes cooking your meals. Tell your girl to wash her ass. The study had used trick questions not to be devious, but to demonstrate that values about food, clothing, ways of addressing people, and other seemingly conventional matters could be seen from a different light. Chapter 4, Moral America. I once overheard moral judgment interview being conducted in the bathroom of a McDonald's restaurant in northern Indiana. Okay, this is the height of moral discussions in America. They're held in McDonald's restrooms. The person interviewed the subject, a Caucasian male roughly 30 years old. The interviewer was a Caucasian male approximately 4 years old. It's a guy interviewing his kid. I'm not kidding, though. These are where the philosophical questions happen. When I worked at Starbucks, I had to question so many hobos about dealing drugs in our bathroom. Was I crossing a moral boundary? Are they allowed to deal meth in my Starbucks? The person interviewed the subject, starting, "Dad, what would happen if I pooped in here? The urinal? It would be yucky. Go ahead, flush, come on out, and let's wash our hands. But Dad, what would happen if I pooped in the sink? The people who work here would get mad. What would happen if I pooped in the sink at home? I would get mad. What would happen if you pooped in the sink at home? Mom would get mad at me. Well, what would happen if we all pooped in the sink at home? Well, I guess we're all in trouble. Come on, let's dry out those hands."
Sticking at your gap where there is no...
Should you be able to poop out of your yacht into the sink? The most philosophical discussion ever in a McDonald's bathroom. It's patriotic. If we all poop in the sink, nobody can stop us. Guys, there's no one stopping us. It's a fucking cultural norm, man. We could shit in the sink. I mean, the fucking sink is waist tight. You tell me I'm not supposed to piss in that thing?
Insert cash or select payment type.
I gotta pay to use the bathroom? I'm gonna shit in your sink. Think about it, guys. You go to Europe, they have those fountains next to the toilet. You tell me I'm not supposed to wash my face in that thing? I throw a coin in there for good luck. That's what it's for, right? It's fucking cultural norm, man. Nothing is stopping you from taking a shower in the Airbnb bidet. Got a long story here. Thomas Jefferson offered a more balanced model of a relationship between reason and emotion. In 1786, while serving as the American minister to France, Jefferson fell in love with Maria Cosway, a beautiful 27-year-old English artist who was introduced to Jefferson by a mutual friend. Jefferson and Cosway spent the next few hours doing exactly what people would do, fall madly in love. They strolled around Paris on a perfect sunny afternoon, fell in love. Jefferson sent messengers bearing lies to cancel the evening's meeting so that he could extend his stay. Historians do not know how the romance progressed over the weeks that followed, but Cosway's husband soon insisted on taking his wife back, leaving Jefferson in pain. American Morals chapter. Is it okay to go over and treat other countries as farm league feeder systems for our chicks? To ease that pain, Jefferson wrote Cosway a love letter, using a literary trick to cloak the impropriety of writing about love. Jefferson wrote the letter as a dialogue. He's got to speak in code. Everything in this world is a matter of calculation, any other offer being made. It's simply a Wall Street calculation at this point. It's not about love, it's about calculation. Thomas Jefferson, he's going, psh, I wasn't in love with you, you're French. And I faked all my orgasms.
When I met you in the summer.
I read Jefferson's letter to Cosway during my final month in Charlottesville as part of my initiation. He's transferring the story. He goes to UVA to try to dunk on atheist college students. We brought 30 UVA students into the lab one at a time for extended interviews. This was a job to challenge their reasoning, no matter what they said. That's what college in America is. You sit in a classroom for an hour and they challenge your reason. It is progressive to have sex with canines. Julie and Mark, who are sister and brother traveling in France, are both on a summer vacation from college. One night they are staying alone in a cabin near the beach. They decide that it would be interesting and fun if they tried making love. Told you this book was wild, all right? The American Ethics chapter is talking about incest. And if you've traveled abroad, it's not even a joke anymore. The other people think Americans have sex with their siblings because of all this step porn. This is our image abroad now. I'm not even kidding. Help me, step bro, I'm stuck. That's all they see in us. They both enjoyed it in this fake scenario, but they decided not to do it again. They keep that night as a special secret between them. It makes them feel even closer as siblings. So what do you think about this? Was it wrong for them to have sex? 87% of students said this is morally unacceptable. And the other 13% of freaks were kicked out of the dorms. This is America. You can have sex with your chicken. You can have sex with your step-siblings.
Hi, I'm Saul Goodman. Did you know that you have rights?
Chapter 5. Righteous World. This book is fucking righteous. The social institutions model an explanation of what moral and political arguments can be frustrating. Moral reasons are the tail wagged by the intuitive dog. Plato believed that reason could and should be the master. Jefferson believed that two processes were equal partners. Hume believed that reason was the servant of the passions. That's why I told you about Jefferson. He's kind of the middle ground. John Locke going out and having sex with 3 native girls at once. You're not allowed to do that. Jefferson, he's the middle ground. Remember we read the Jefferson Bible? He took all the woo-woo out of it. No meat on Friday. Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, you're good. You have meat on Friday, that's hell in eternity.
It's about drive. It's about power.
Took all that out. Jefferson was a rationalist. Hey, if she's French, she's for the taking. Does religion make people good or bad? The new atheists assert that religion is the root of most evil. They say it is the primary cause of war, genocide, and terrorism, not greed, religion. Religious believers, for that part, often say that atheists are immoral. They can't be trusted. Even John Locke, one of the leadings of the Enlightenment movement, wrote that promise, covenants, and oaths which are bound by human society have no uphold amongst the atheists.
We got a #1 victory royale.
Hey, at least not an atheist. When atheism becomes religion, I'm not making any points. But not every religious person is an unconditional altruist. Not all of them have love in their hearts. Holy beliefs can lead to holy wars. The main point for Chapter 5, he says societies that forego the exoskeleton of religion should reflect carefully on what will happen and take its place. We don't really know because the first atheistic societies have only emerged in Europe over the last few decades. These goddamn French nihilists. They are the least effective societies at turning resources into offspring. For real, you look at the French birth rate, plummeting. Japan, they're all depressed. They don't have kids. They sell more adult diapers than kid ones. These godless societies, they're asking for us young Jeffersonians to fertilize them with American altruism.
Hamburger, cheeseburger, Big Mac, Whopper.
Jeffersonian Bible, baby. These righteous atheist Europeans, we gotta balance them out with some love. Some intercontinental love affairs. Coming soon.
What do you mean by that?
You're nearly done reading a book on morality, and I have not given you a definition of morality. There's a reason for that. Moral systems are interlocking sets of values, virtues, norms, practices, identities, institutions, technologies, evolved psychological mechanisms that work together to suppress or regulate self-interest and make cooperative societies possible. Morals are the glue. We humans have an extraordinary ability to care about things beyond ourselves, to circle around us and other people, and in that process, blind ourselves into teams that can pursue larger projects. Don't forget, there's downsides to glue too. Morality binds and blinds. It binds us in ideological teams that fight one another through the fate of what would happen, and it blinds us to the fact that each team is composed of good people who have something important to say. We're all stuck here for a while, so let's try to work it out.
No! It can't be!
It can't be. The liberals are evil. The conservatives have sex with chickens! This has been another edition of Nick's Nonfiction. You can find me over at Harry Shit every single night on Instagram, free memes, or patreon.com/Anish. I am your boy.
I'm Pickle Rick!
Signing off.